My parents skipped my wedding because I married before my perfect sister. Now their perfect family image is finally crumbling. After 4 years together, I, Emily, 32, female, married 8 months ago. Except for my sister Sarah, 30, female, and my parents, everyone attended the wedding. My parents' decision to skip the occasion surprised me, but my sister's absence did not surprise me because we have never gotten along. However, given our history, I should have anticipated this. I'll give you some background on our family dynamics. I can't totally blame my parents for always favoring my sister over me. Throughout her life, she has excelled in practically everything. She became the focus of attention in every room she entered as soon as she could walk. She won every spelling bee, science fair, and talent show during elementary school. In high school, the roles of class president, valedictorian, and prom queen were nearly identical, tall, thin, and attractive enough. She studied modeling in college before focusing on her business degree. She received her first modeling job during her sophomore year, and I still remember it. To celebrate, my parents hosted a spectacular party for all of our family members and her friends. Her first professional headshot was framed and hung in our living room, where it is still displayed today. Immediately above the fireplace, they simply whispered, "Well done," and started organizing Sarah's next photo shoot. The same year, I obtained my computer science degree. She immediately climbed the corporate ladder after graduating and securing a job at a well-known corporation. At 30 years old, she already has a corner office and a corporate car, indicating that she is a senior executive. Meanwhile, I work as a mid-level software developer for a well-known computer company. Although I am satisfied with my work and believe it is a respectable profession, it is not the type of job that parents brag about in front of their children. In addition, I am larger and shorter than my sister. When I was growing up, my mother, Linda, made ugly remarks about my appearance, enrolled me in gym programs I didn't want to attend, and constantly placed me on diets. She'd say, "Sarah never struggles with her weight." Or she could add, "You could look as nice as your sister if you just put in a little more effort." Even though I had learned to ignore these comments by high school, they nevertheless had an influence over time. I've come to embrace these distinctions. I eventually accepted the fact that my parents never took as much pride in my successes as they did in Sarah's. What were my options? For years, I tried to win their approval by taking classes they advised, joining clubs they promoted, and even trying modeling for a short period, a failure my sister will never forget. However, nothing was ever enough. I was only the second daughter, and they were entirely taken with my sister's accomplishments. I gave up trying to impress them around my mid-20s. I focused on establishing my own life, progressing professionally on my own terms, and forming relationships with people who valued me for who I am. To be honest, since then, things have improved. Knowing that my parents were continuously preoccupied with maintaining appearances, I kept my interactions with them superficial to avoid conflict. During our mandatory Christmas dinners and sporadic family gatherings, I would nod and smile as they talked about Sarah's latest job, partner, or holiday destination. Because they had Sarah to drool over, they didn't notice my emotional remoteness. Then, at a computer conference, I ran into my spouse, James, via a common friend. He noticed and saw me. Unlike my family, he appreciated my dry sense of humor, ability to code, and even my physical type. From the start, he never suggested that I alter or make comparisons to others. He proposed to me after 4 years of dating, while we were alone at home, eating takeout and watching our favorite TV show. It was perfect. Naturally, I informed my parents that I was engaged last year. Their response should have served as my first indicator. There was no congratulation, just stillness. My mother, Linda, then asked if I was sure I wanted to plunge right in, and suggested that I improve my physical condition before the wedding. My father, Richard, did not say much. During the engagement party, my husband saw their unusual reaction, which I was too nervous to fully comprehend at the time. They spent most of the evening hunched in a corner, holding my mother's phone. James then told me that he had overheard them conversing on the phone with Sarah, who was plainly crying. They were discussing how this wasn't the plan, and how they never expected Emily to get married first. According to what he barely heard, There were a few minor snags in the wedding planning process. Despite the fact that I was not yet engaged, my mother had already created numerous wedding Pinterest boards for Sarah and was not interested in assisting me in choosing a dress or location. When I chose my outfit, a simple yet stunning Align gown that made me feel lovely, my mother just said that it was practical and suitable for my figure. My future mother-in-law, Susan, who treated me as the daughter she never had, and I ended up collaborating on most of the preparations. Before sending out electronic and print wedding invites, I carefully examined and double-checked the guest list with my spouse to ensure that no one was left out. I'm confident that my parents received theirs because the electronic invitations included read receipts. I contacted, texted, and emailed them multiple times after discovering they had not RSVP'd. My emails were either ignored or received evasive responses claiming that they were very busy and needed to check their schedules. I couldn't spend too much time worrying about it because I was too busy preparing for the wedding. My in-laws were extremely helpful, assisting with everything from seating plans to floral arrangements. Even at the delightful bridal shower thrown by my husband's sister, Claire, the painfully obvious absence of my own family was not mentioned, even though my parents were not present. The wedding day itself was amazing. Following the morning ceremony, we hosted a relaxed afternoon reception in a garden setting. Everyone was correct when they remarked we looked happy and in love. However, there were instances when their absence felt like physical suffering, such as when I noticed the front row seats were empty or at the father-daughter dance that I was unable to attend. I was looking for answers after the honeymoon and wedding. When I called them, they said they were deeply hurt because they had never received a formal invitation. My mother launched into a long tirade about how reckless I was, how she had always wanted to help organize her daughter's weddings, and how she couldn't understand why I would leave them out of such an important event. I was perplexed by this because I knew we had given them both types of invitations. During the call, I checked our records to make sure we had sent them. Even the physical invitation delivery was confirmed. I did not confront them about their efforts to gaslight me. I just apologized for the error and hung up. Later, my husband mentioned a number of situations that indicated their true intentions, such as how they acted shocked rather than happy when we informed them we were engaged, or how they kept coming up with excuses not to help with the wedding plans. He hadn't mentioned these discoveries earlier because he didn't want to add to my anxiety during the wedding preparation process. But the trend was obvious in retrospect. The idea that I, the less successful daughter, would marry before their beloved Sarah was too much for them to stomach. Their manner only confirmed what I had always suspected but denied, that I would never be able to compete with my sister in their eyes. The most disappointing thing was finding that my wedding day, which should have been a celebration of love and new beginnings, had become yet another front in their never-ending battle to maintain their ideal family image with Sarah at the center. According to family members with whom I spoke, Sarah recently became engaged to someone she had been dating for a year. In family group chats, in which I do not participate, my parents openly expressed their delight about planning an expensive wedding for her. They have already boasted about procuring upscale venues and luxury gowns, and my mother is taking Sarah to private fittings at upscale stores. All of the mother-daughter time I was not permitted. It's curious that so many of our family members have suddenly refused to attend Sarah's wedding and engagement parties. My parents' conduct at my wedding appears to have become a topic of conversation among the family. When my family members ask why my parents did not attend my wedding, I just tell them what I believe to be true. They couldn't handle the thought of my marrying before their darling daughter. I report the facts as I see them, with no exaggeration or attempt to elicit sympathy. My parents contacted me a few days ago, accusing me of purposely trying to ruin Sarah's wedding. According to their accusations, the relatives they've spoken to are using excuses to avoid attending any of her wedding-related events. My cousin, Anna, to whom my sister vented, advised her that people are hesitant to come because they have heard about my parents' treatment of me. My parents accused me of spreading false reports because I am envious of my sister's upcoming expensive wedding. The difficulty is that I am only telling people the truth about what happened. Perhaps they should reconsider their actions rather than blaming me for the outcome. If the truth makes them look bad, that's on them. As circumstances change, I find it increasingly difficult to maintain the impression of a relationship with my parents. Their reaction at my wedding made it plain to me that I would never be enough for them, no matter what I did. Their absence at my wedding is no longer the most challenging situation. It's accepting that I never had the lovely, encouraging parents I'd hoped for. I'm focusing on building a life with someone who truly values me for who I am right now. But I'll keep you posted if something significant happens. First update. Many things have happened since my last post 2 weeks ago. Following your supportive statements, I decided to confront my parents about their conduct at my wedding and their present accusations that I wrecked my sister's special day. When they started emailing me about their tainted family history, I knew it was time to lay it all out. During our phone discussion, my parents instantly began accusing me of being jealous of Sarah and planning the whole thing. I did something I had never done before. I agreed with them, but not in the way they expected. Instead of defending myself like I typically do, I told them, "You're right, I'm not envious of Sarah's work, accomplishments, or attractiveness. I'm envious of the unwavering love and support you've offered her, which you've never made an attempt to show me." There was a pause on the line, and my mother began to argue that I was exaggerating and that they had always treated us fairly. Something shattered inside of me at that moment, and feelings that had been suppressed for years came rushing out. When Sarah had a modeling callback, my mother cancelled my high school graduation dinner, and her prom dress cost more than the total cost of my college textbooks for a year. I told them of each birthday when Sarah's most recent triumph surpassed my own achievements. I persisted despite my father's attempts to cut me off by accusing me of exaggeration. I told them how terrible it was to see my parents' seats empty and how my mother-in-law, Susan, had to assist me with everything from wedding planning to wardrobe shopping. I also mentioned how they had spent years organizing my sister's fake wedding while showing no interest in mine. Their reactions were instructive. They flipped it on me rather than listening to any of my explanations. "Why didn't you speak out if you felt like this?" my mother insisted, as if I hadn't tried for years already. My father went on to imply that by addressing these feelings with our family members, I was being unfair and cruel. My mother said something at that point that helped to clarify everything. "We never imagined you'd go to such lengths as to try to ruin Sarah's wedding out of spite, but we always knew you were insecure about her success," she told me. "This is not the way we raised you." I became aware that they were unable to hear me. They assumed that their actions and my emotions had nothing to do with the overall situation. It had to do with Sarah's response. Even throughout this debate regarding their absence from my wedding, they were more concerned with her upcoming nuptials than with the pain they had caused me. I did not try to make things better. For the first time in my life, I did not withdraw or apologize. Rather, I stated my ideas to them directly. "You are right on one point. You raised me with the assumption that I would never measure up, that Sarah's accomplishments would always be more valuable than mine, and that sustaining your ideal family image was more important than my feelings. However, you also taught me that I deserved better than this, something you did not want to teach me." There was a lengthy wait before my father spoke, and he spoke calmly and collectively. "Maybe it's time for us to stop acting like we're awful parents since you've already decided we are, and you plainly like seeing us suffer. We expected you to help us resolve this issue because you're family, but it's evident you've made your own conclusions. The last blow was administered by my mother. Perhaps you simply couldn't cope with not being the center of attention, even though we always tried to treat you both properly. Emily, it's not our fault you chose to play the victim. They had just proven what I had been saying, so there was no use in disagreeing. Even in this final conversation, they refused to accept their role in anything. So I simply hung up and said goodbye. I was shocked to feel comforted following the call. Tears were shed, to be sure, but they weren't the frenzied, sad ones I recall from my childhood. They were liberated tears. For the first time, I had said everything I needed to say without holding back or feeling bad about my emotions. Later, my husband noticed me looking at the sunset from our back patio and sat next to me, grasping my hand without saying anything. "They'll never change, will they?" I asked him after a time. "No, but you have," he replied, squeezing my hand. "And that is what matters." He is right. I have changed. The youngster who feverishly sought her parents' approval is no longer present. They no longer need to legitimize the woman who emerged from that last conversation. Recognizing that my parents will never be the people I need them to be is hard. but it is less painful than hoping that they will change. For the first time, I don't care what happens at my sister's wedding or in the family drama. I've had my say, and now they must deal with whatever arises. What is the most unique aspect? I feel as if a load I've carried all my life has finally been removed. Although it is not the joyful ending I had hoped for with my parents, it may have been exactly what I needed, the capacity to stop fighting for love that should have come naturally. Second update: 3 days have passed since my encounter with our parents, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Sarah decided to become involved in the drama, but her tactic flopped miserably. My sister wrote me a kind message yesterday morning. She had developed a condescending tone over the years, as seen by her text. What you said to our parents was very improper. They have helped us through every stage of our lives and given us everything. You cannot simply blame them for being lousy parents because you are insecure about your life choices. She continued the message with her usual blend of moral superiority and subtle jabs. I understand that your wedding was not exactly how you had hoped, but that doesn't mean you should try to ruin mine. There's nothing wrong with wanting to celebrate those among us who have worked hard to attain certain criteria. Emily, not everything has to be a contest. I did not bother to respond. I've realized that interacting with her only gives her more ammunition. After years of putting up with her manipulative behavior, I just blocked her phone number instead. Sarah has never been one to tolerate being ignored, so I believed that was the end of it. My husband, who was laughing so hard he couldn't speak, called me at work a few hours later. Sarah was evidently unable to contact me directly, so she discovered his personal phone number, likely through a mutual acquaintance, and sent him a series of messages describing the specific reasons why our sister relationship has never been good. She began her first communication with him in a fairly professional manner, as Emily's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being. I feel compelled to reach out. However, it quickly transformed into her true motivations. She told my husband that he had an obligation to help me behave more appropriately because he was the new man in Emily's life. The messages got more patronizing. Family dynamics are complex, she explained to my husband, a professional software architect with an MBA, adding that someone with Emily's sensitivity might not understand the bigger picture. She recommended he aid me in seeing reason before I irreparably harm family relationships. The main kicker, however, was her attempt to play on his perceived social climbing instincts. Surely you understand that maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial for your future, she wrote. Emily's behavior is only hurting her own prospects and, by extension, yours, my spouse, who has always been able to see through Sarah's veneer, found her attempt at manipulation humorous. He enjoyed how she assumed that her corporate status or the promise of networking opportunities would impress him. Using his own words, "She really doesn't know me at all, does she?" When I arrived home that night, we reviewed the messages together. I was laughing with my husband, rather than being insulted or outraged. It felt freeing to see Sarah's dishonest methods exposed, especially when they were directed at someone who was completely immune to them. This event taught me valuable information about my sister. Despite her accomplishments and success, she remains the insecure adolescent who has to bring others down in order to feel superior. She assumed she could control me by manipulating my husband, demonstrating how little she understands about effective relationships. When her direct approach failed, she quickly shifted to attempting to use my husband against me, which was the most telling detail. She used to do just that in high school. She tried to turn my friends against me when she couldn't bully me directly. Different decade, same strategy. With this new perspective, I now see how Sarah's actions extended beyond typical sibling rivalry in our early years. She made a concentrated effort to maintain her place as the favorite child, always telling our parents and me how much better she was. She had to overshadow my accomplishments. She had to point out my flaws to everyone I became friends with. My reaction to her games is different now. 10 years ago, her messages would have made me doubt myself. I'd have been upset and hurt. 5 years ago, I'd have been angry. Today, simply put, I'm beyond the drama and find her obvious attempts at manipulation humorous. My husband's response was great. Rather than becoming involved in her drama, he just responded, "Thank you for your concern about Emily's well-being. As her husband, I'm focused on supporting her happiness." not managing her behavior. I think it's best if you direct any future concerns to Emily directly. Have a nice day. Sarah sent a final message after not receiving the required response. I see she's poisoned you against the family too. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces. Ironically, Sarah's attempt to assist has cemented my resolve to avoid my family's harmful dynamics. Nothing has changed. As seen by her text to my hubby, she remains the same crafty individual who feels compelled to influence every scenario and sees any deviation from her perfect family script as a threat. Knowing that her attempts at persuasion were completely futile is arguably the most enjoyable aspect of the entire experience. She was successful in pulling my spouse and me closer together, rather than leading us to drift away. We laughed at her texts and planned a weekend getaway in the evening, oblivious to the social consequences. I've come to realize that true family isn't about maintaining facades or telling stories. It's about standing together, laughing together, and supporting one another when someone attempts to influence you, including your own sister. I am more convinced than ever that I should stay away from Sarah's wedding drama. Instead of getting caught up in my family's never-ending power battles, my husband and I decided to focus on establishing our own happiness. Success is believed to be the best form of retaliation. But I'm starting to realize that true success isn't about impressing others. It's about embracing your decisions and surrounding yourself with people who support rather than obstruct your own growth. Based on that criterion, I feel more successful than ever. Third update: following my sister's fruitless attempt to influence my husband 2 weeks ago, events have taken unexpected twists. Despite my parents' urgent attempts to rehabilitate their reputation, the issue worsens. I discovered through family ties that my parents have been on a furious dash to correct the narrative. They have been calling each relative separately and accused me of spreading filthy lies because I am envious of Sarah's perfect wedding. They believe I am just resentful since her wedding will be significantly more elegant and beautiful than mine. According to their most recent story, I purposely excluded them from my wedding in order to portray myself as the victim. It's amusing because they still live in the same house they've owned for 30 years and have had the same email addresses since the beginning of email, yet they claim I sent their invitation to an old email address and physical location. The good news is that their efforts to mitigate the damage are failing terribly. Our family members do not believe it. Actually, several family members have revealed their personal stories about my parents' history of favoritism. According to one aunt, Margaret, my mother had previously engaged in similar behavior at family weddings to ensure that Sarah was the life of the party. The way my extended family has reacted to my parents' deception has been the most rewarding development. Important family members, some of whom were anticipated to play key roles in the occasion, have ceased supporting Sarah's wedding. They may no longer have access to the exclusive venue to which they were formerly granted due to family ties. Even a family friend's fancy garment business has unexpectedly encountered scheduling conflicts. Things got out of hand at a family gathering last weekend. My mother appears to have become offended when someone made a foolish inquiry regarding my wedding photos. Out of jealousy, she launched a defensive tirade about how I had changed after getting married and was attempting to destroy the family. Her outburst backfired, shocking a lot of relatives who were uninformed of the situation and further tarnishing their well-deserved reputation. It's especially ironic that my parents' frantic efforts to maintain their ideal family facade are causing it to come apart. Each time they try to rationalize their absence from my wedding, they reveal more about who they truly are. People are becoming more conscious of their deception as they try to paint me as the villain. Family members are suddenly taking sides after previously being unbiased. Recently, even my father's brother, Uncle David, who had always kept quiet to foster unity, apologized for not speaking up sooner about how they treated me. He has decided not to attend any of Sarah's wedding-related events with his family. I'm not required to address any of this specifically, therefore. I haven't. The reality is that they are taking care of everything for me. When Sarah and my parents try to distort the story, they usually end up revealing more of their harmful behavior. All those years of remaining silent and putting up with their behavior in order to keep the peace turned out to be nothing more than a cover for their conduct. My husband said it in the greatest possible way. Over the years, they built a facade of the ideal family, but it was founded on emotional manipulation and prejudice. and it was bound to fall apart. Personally, I'm doing better than I ever have. I no longer have to worry about gaining my parents' approval, and the stress of managing Sarah's emotions has gone. For the first time in my life, I am unconcerned about maintaining their idealized family image. Sometimes the best revenge is to let the truth speak for itself, rather than to take action. I'm thankful to Reddit for giving me the courage to advocate for myself. You have no idea how much your advice and encouragement have meant to me on this journey. Sometimes you need to see what true family support looks like from strangers you meet online. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around.